new low in the Obama administration's declining relationship with Moscow, with Secretary of State John Kerry Friday calling for a war crimes investigation of the Russian and Syrian governments following repeated strikes on civilian targets in Syria. This as intelligence officials accused Moscow of meddling in the U.S. election after concluding that Russia's senior-most officials were behind the recent cyber attacks on the Democratic Party. Former world chess champion Garry Kasparov is chairman of the Human Rights Foundation and author of the book, Winter is Coming, Why Vladimir Putin and the Enemies of the Free World Must Be Stopped. So, Garry, welcome back. Good to have you here. So, the U.S., let's talk about the intelligence accusation first, saying that the Russians were responsible for the hacking. Do you think that Putin must have known that this was going on?
I think Putin was behind it. I think nobody would ever consider, hacking U.S. elections without Putin's direct orders. Russia is a dictatorship. It's a one-man show, and I believe Putin is looking for every opportunity to spread chaos. And supporting Trump was one story, but also creating uncertainties about the process, the entire democratic process in the United States, could be his biggest victory.
So he would take the risk of hacking American election processes just to create the mayhem, doubt, consternation, and maybe that more important than supporting one of the candidates?
Look, it's naturally he prefers Trump.
He does. Why?
Because Trump is an agent of chaos. Trump talks about undermining NATO and basically reneging on U.S. and alliances around the world. And also Trump is viewed by many of American allies and general public as someone who is not stable. That's what Putin needs in America and elsewhere.
So, but he also would, if somehow we're a close election and we had a debate and people thought, oh, somebody stole it, he'd love that.
Oh, that would be the sort of ideal scenario for Putin. If he can create, like a Florida recount conflicts across the country, in Ohio, in Florida, in Virginia, in Michigan, in Nevada, people complaining about, for instance, their names being erased accidentally from the database.
All right, so what will be the reaction from Putin, the Kremlin, and inside Russia to this American accusation?
Oh, they simply deny everything. Putin reached a stage where he doesn't care what America says, what Europeans allies say. It's all about the story he sells on Russian television. Let's not forget, for Putin, this foreign policy aggressive act is a part of his domestic campaign to present himself as the sort of iron fist leader who is defying everybody, including, especially, the United States.
All right, so let's move to Syria. They're introduced now the anti-aircraft weapons into Syria. They're consolidating. They have not stopped the bombing. What is he trying to do there?
No, Syria was an attempt actually to bring attention from Ukraine, where actually Putin failed to achieve his proclaimed goals of annexing, one third of the country.
Pick another front.
Yeah, and now we just saw Syria as another opportunity to defy America and to demonstrate that despite Obama's claims 5 years ago, let's not forget, Assad must go, Assad stays in. It's a very important message, both for Russians and also for people around the world, showing that Putin is in the position to keep his ally, no matter how bad his ally, it's a war criminal, keep it in the office at any cost.
So we had a major general, Russian major general, essentially threaten the United States, saying, we can shoot down any planes, American planes.
Why not?
If you attempt to do any bombing of Assad's positions.
But it's a part of intimidation campaign.
But I don't recall that for a long time, that kind of a direct threat.
Look, they have been intimidating the Secretary of State, John Kerry, for 4 years.
Fair enough, but that's a different standard than threatening to shoot down American aircraft.
But that's what happens, escalation. They're already losing the sense of reality. They created the parallel picture, parallel reality on Russian TV, and eventually they believe that America is just, is a cover, and America will retreat, no matter what they say, no matter what they do.
What about John Kerry's saying that they need to have a war crimes investigation? Mean anything at all?
It's okay. I would say it's too little too late, but it's better late than never. But I don't believe that this administration will move in a few months, the remaining in the office. Obama's foreign policy is absolute disaster. It brought us almost to the verge of the war. And unfortunately, during this campaign, instead of talking about real issues and about exposing the failure of this administration, we are consumed with some scandals.
And do you think that Putin would like to use the next 3 months to get as much more territory and consolidate Assad's position in Syria as he can?
I think now he's still waiting to see the outcome, but it seems that Trump is sliding. So that's why, recognizing that Hillary would be in the office, and after everything they did, and especially the trauma of this reset failed policy,
right.
I think Putin will do absolutely everything he can. Not only in Syria. Let's not forget that it's just the puppet parliament, Russian parliament, just now announced after confirming the Russian military base in Syria that they will consider to reopen the Russian military bases in Vietnam and Cuba.
And that's a direct provocation of the United States and Cuba.
Well, absolutely. They will keep provoking the United States because Putin has no other means of demonstrating his strengths inside Russia.
And your advice to the next president would be you need to be much more forceful in stopping.
Look, I still hope that this administration will do something. I mean, not just to leave everything, in pieces, in debris after leaving the office, because every day, counts. While Obama cares about his image, and his legacy, there are hundreds of thousands of people at risk in Syria, and the entire political equation in Europe and the United States could be at risk as well.
Is at risk. Gary Kasparov, thank you very much for being here. Appreciate it. Still ahead, as Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton prepare for tomorrow night's showdown in St. Louis, can they move past the controversies currently dogging their campaigns?
If you're like thousands of veterans who own a home,